Morning. I'm standing outside the front of Parliament House for the usual doorstops. It's incredibly cold and foggy. We've just had Senator Chris Back has just left. Today at Parliament looks like we're mostly going to be talking about energy and also maybe about Gonski. I've actually just seen James Ashby. It's State of Origin night tonight, and looks like the parliamentarians have just been down on the little oval off Parliament House, having a little bit of a rugby league. Yeah, as you can see, it looks like they've just been out there playing a bit of league, which is better them than me in this sort of weather. Anyway, we'll be seeing who we can ask questions from in a few moments, and hopefully it'll be another interesting day in Canberra.
Well, it's very interesting that people want renewable energy. We all want renewable energy. We've had it for years. The question is the extent of renewable energy to be able to guarantee safe, reliable and affordable power, and that of course is where renewable energy falls down. Take today as an example where we are. To what extent do people in Canberra think right now that they would get adequate power? There's no wind, the wind doesn't blow, wind turbines are a nonsense anyhow. If those 80% of consumers knew that they were paying $800,000 to $1 million per turbine per year before it sells 1 unit of electricity, I don't know that they would all support that quite to that extent. Have a look at the sun right now. How much solar energy have we got coming out at the moment? The time will come when there will be safely an increase in the amount of renewable energy, but it's not there. It won't be there for a long time to come. When you talk about that 80% of people who want renewables in favour of other sources, go and ask the people of South Australia how they went when the blackout occurred. I was the only person in June of last year on national radio. I predicted that not only would South Australia's energy costs go up by 18 to 20% on the 1st of July, and they did, and I also predicted that South Australia would have a statewide blackout of power, and they did. It wasn't a 5-minute statewide blackout of power, it was 6 to 7 days for some people. The Flinders Medical School, where all the frozen embryos were stored, lost all of their frozen embryos. What effect did that have on those people whose hopes were there in the freezers, where embryos that they'd stored, it might have been due to infertility, it might have been due to cancer, all of those frozen embryos were lost. So when I hear people say 80% want renewable energy, we all want renewable energy. I've got renewable energy on my boat. I've got solar panels on my boat. When I ran Rottnest Island in the 1980s and 90s, I had 9 applications of solar energy. So when you hear people say 80%, do they want the lights on tonight? Do they want heating on tonight? Do they want to be able to use their computers? Do they really want the risk associated with it? I don't think so.
You can't afford to have a position where penalty rates are ripped away from ordinary working people in this country at a time when the Reserve Bank Governor is telling workers to go out and make claims for increased pay and conditions. This is an absolute nonsense what's going on here. Penalty rates are so important to ordinary workers. When I was on the job as a blue-collar worker, I needed my penalty rates to put food on the table for my family, to be able to go out once in a blue moon. These are not people living high in the hog, and they're getting their penalty rates ripped away from them. And any politician who supports cutting penalty rates on a basic salary of $200,000 is an absolute hypocrite. Coal will be around for some time until these power stations reach the end of their useful life. What we should have been doing now for years is look how we can get reliable, renewable energy in place around the country. That's what we would do as a government. The coal industry itself is pulling out. The power stations that are owned by private companies, they are indicating they are going to pull out. So we have to get an alternative, and that alternative is renewable energy. There are ways that we can find reliability through renewables. That's what the government should be looking at, but they are so incompetent, they are so weak, they are so internally driven that they are not in a position to actually make any decisions in the national interest.
In relation to the issue of energy, before I get on to Gonski, the government's announcements yesterday are welcome. They are part of the package of measures that I negotiated with the government in the lead up to the company tax cuts. My concern is the government cannot be half-hearted about this. I'm not suggesting they are, but if these measures don't bring down prices and don't signal a reduction in prices very soon after July the 1st, that will be a disaster for Australian industry and Australian jobs. The government needs to pull out all stops, do everything possible to reduce power prices, to increase supply in the gas market, and that includes getting tough on big oil and gas companies that I believe are hoarding their tenements, their leases, their retention leases, particularly in the Northwest Shelf. That is something that we need to tackle head on. You can't muck around when it comes to releasing gas to the market. It doesn't pass the pub test, a national interest test, or any other test, that the price of gas in Japan is effectively half the price of gas here in Australia when you take into account the liquefaction and transport costs. And finally, what you'll all be waiting for, in relation to Gonski, I've just left a meeting with my colleague Rebecca Sharkey and the Education Minister, Senator Birmingham. We are still in very close discussions with the government on this. I am optimistic that later this morning we will have something to say in terms of a package of measures that will deliver terrific outcomes for students, for schools across the country. The fact that the AU branches in WA, that other AU branches are now saying, well, if you can compress the time of this package to 6 years rather than 10 years, that will deliver much better outcomes much more quickly, having more transparent mechanisms, ensuring the states do the right thing, and also dealing with some of the concerns of the Catholic sector. If we can do that, then that will be unambiguously a good thing for this country, a great thing for students across the country in terms of better educational outcomes. Look, I accept that 80% of the population will focus on renewables. I agree with them. 70%, only a small minority wants to focus on coal. But I suspect that 110% of the population actually wants energy security and lower energy prices as well.
And just in terms of Gonski 2.0, the legislation with all the concessions actually is quite different to how it was originally handed down. Should we put this back to spring like the AU do?
No, that's what the AU wants to do. But we have many schools that want certainty now. They want to be able to plan for their budgets now. And that's when they start doing it around this time. They want there to be certainty. There's been a lot of negotiation, a lot of to and fro, and I believe that you will end up with a good outcome for this country, a good outcome for students and teachers and schools across the country, and we shouldn't let the perfect be the enemy of the good.
Do you think the divisions in the coalition are stopping any resolution about energy policy?
Look, I think divisions everywhere. I mean, the fact is, what we all need now, look, these are the twin goals. We need to meet our Paris Agreement targets, which is a 28% reduction on 2005 greenhouse gas levels by 2030, and we're going to get cracking on that. But we also need to make sure we have affordable energy and we have energy security and a reliable grid, and we don't have that now. And we also need, in a third tranche, to deal with gas prices, because there's something seriously wrong about a situation where gas prices in Japan are effectively half the price for the same gas being sold in Australia. How can Australian gas in Japan be effectively half the price of Australian gas sold here in Australia, which is bringing businesses to their knees and threatening tens of thousands of jobs?